Hi, welcome to day 3 of my diary entry. Today I'm looking at differentiated instruction and support in the classroom. Differentiated instruction was a common strategy that my mentor teacher used in most of her activities. She breaks them down into subgroup activities, sometimes with mixed ability, sometimes with same level of ability. So, for example, with shared reading time today, they were broken down into ability groups. So, group 1, who were the students working at a grade 1 level, they were changing the end of the story. Group 2 were focusing on compound sentences with my mentor teacher. And group 3 were practicing their motor skills, which I sat there and helped them. So they were practicing their motor skills in terms of handwriting and letter formation, which I thought this was a really good way of using differentiated instruction. There is a benefit to this classroom is the fact that she has a teacher's aide in the classroom, but the teacher's aide not only supports the student who requires the extra support, but she's also there to also help assist in scaffold the learning of the other students. This particular experience and the discussion with my teacher informed me how there was a particular student in the class that had been assessed but hadn't been given funding. So this highlighted to me the importance of how much of a greater push there needs to be towards the government and support from the unions to get behind and really actually support those students in need. Because in a class of 25 preps alone, it could be quite challenging at times, especially if they're highly support dependent. Her overall strategy in terms of the whole class strategy was that she introduced systems into the classroom at the beginning of the year. So, for example, the gifted students knew that once they'd finished an activity that they could go and work on their own personal inquiry project, which also highlighted to me that the students had an opportunity to really have self-directed learning, which was a positive thing. But rather than giving them free time, they're still working on something that helps to develop those literacy skills. For the students who needed extra support, she really created explicit activities, so really honing in on the foundations of, for example, the handwriting, really just looking at one letter and how to write that one particular letter rather than doing every single letter. So I thought that was a really effective support but also encouraging activity for the students. And it also, she at the beginning of the lesson, she always outlines the students' learning outcomes, so individually to each of the extra support students, which I found really effective for them, because then that could put them on task and then they felt like they were going to be successful and achieve what they'd sort of co-designed together as teacher and student. The assessment and the feedback in the classroom is an ongoing process in this particular classroom. She makes her way around the room. She's always having discussions, asking for explanations with the children, striking up conversation, even when it's just free time. So there's constant interaction between the teacher and the students. She gets them to individually read their work to her. She's engaged in their writing tasks. She also gets them to, instead of her writing up on the board, if they're doing a class discussion or talking about the weather, she will often ask, does anyone know how to spell Monday? And get them to come up and write, which I thought was really effective, instead of being sort of teacher-directed lesson, she sort of flips it around and keeps it still sort of student-centered, which I found really impressive, and it kept them engaged and motivated. This type of assessment really allows her to have that one-on-one interaction with the students and then obtain data which then informs the teaching practices that will help to continually scaffold those students in her classroom. She also has developed individualized learning plans for all of her students and is continually coming back to see these. She clarifies and identifies a child's development and progress with specific reading and writing tasks. But the fact that she always comes back to these throughout the year sort of struck me as a really beneficial tool for herself, but also for the support and the scaffolding of the students in her class. So just in a nutshell, her overall knowledge, I'm not sure if it comes down to her 38 years of experience, but her overall knowledge of different, like the reasons behind differentiated instruction and support was very high, and she has a great understanding of her students, and I think that this is really effective, and I just think it's great. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow for day 4.